Hello everyone. Today I'm going to make this video to explain this repository I have been working, Secure Azure Connection. The reason for the video is because I try to do everything on documentation. It's difficult, right? I think it's easier to make a video. So to start with, I want to explain the issue, the problem that we're trying to fix here, or that I'm trying to work out. Basically, the reason why I'm trying to build this repository, and it all starts with regular customer, right? So a typical ask from a customer is, I don't want to have or expose my resources on a public level. I don't want to have a public access to my resource. So let's give an example of a storage account. Okay, so here I have a storage account. This storage account, what we are going to do is we're going to configure the network of this storage account, and we're going to say something that is typical: no public access, right? So we're going to put a line here. This is where my friend the dev is, right? And here is where we are going to have the storage account. Let me focus again. So we have this storage account. We have our friend the developer, right? He's a really friendly person, and obviously he has no access. So what's a common practice? Let's go and do this. Once you have no public access, you have to have it somewhere, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go with this approach where we are going to have a VNet. Okay, here's a VNet, virtual network. Cool. And in this virtual network, we're going to have two subnets, but let's start with one, right? So let's use this one. This is going to be my subnet that is going to be in charge of private endpoints. Let me just put it here. Cool. So in this subnet, what we're going to do is we're going to create this small NIC card. Here is going to be my NIC card. There's going to be a private endpoint to my friend, the storage account. ECS, right? So here I have a private endpoint. What does it mean? So my storage account now, let's put it in black. My storage account has something that is called sa.storage.public.com, right? This is going to be a public IP address, let's say 110.10.5, right? Cool. Because it now has a private IP address, what we're going to do, when I say a private IP address, is this private endpoint, right? Let me put here small and say P. Cool, private endpoint, right? If you have been working with private endpoints, you know the next step is to add a private DNS zone. The reason for a private DNS zone is that this IP address that you get here with this P, that inside this subnet, is going to have a record, a resolution, a DNS, I think it's type A, right? So we're going to create this DNS zone, and we're going to put it here in blue. So this is private.storage.com, right? Beautiful. Everybody in the same place. Private.storage.com. Cool. So this DNS, this is a private DNS, right? It's going to have a link. Let me put this small. It's going to have a link between these two, right? This looks really weird. Let me try to put it like this. No, sorry, like this. Cool. So what this means is my private endpoint, this NIC card that is here, is a NIC card, is a network interface, will have an IP address that's going to be resolvable with this private DNS. What does it mean? Now, my storage account that you see here will have an alias record that is going to be sh.private.storage.com. And this DNS is going to go, let's say, to 192.168, let's call this 2, and 25. I don't know. What I'm saying there is basically this subnet is going to be 192.168.2.0/24, let's say, for my private DNS, right? Once you have this private zone here, this private DNS zone, your VNet has a configuration. It uses a DNS. Usually is the well-known DNS record, right? So this is what we call, we're going to call this, not red, let's put it orange. Azure DNS, and I don't remember the name. Let me ask. Sorry, the IP. So well-known DNS IP. 192 something. Cool. So it's this one. Oops. Cool. So this is the DNS that by default our VNet is going to use, right? So every resource that is deployed inside this VNet, let's say here, let me use this, every resource that is deployed in any VNet here is going to be configured to use this DNS zone, right? But what happened with this one, right? What happened? I want to use this one, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do something that is called a VNet link, a private link. What it's going to say is, my friend, I try to bulk this one a little bit. If you are trying to go to storage.com, you are also going to use this private DNS zone to resolve. So now when I have a VM in here, let's say here is my computer, right? My computer now is going to resolve with this one, and this one is going to forward the request here, right? When you forward the request, what that means is my resource in this VNet now is able to reach out or to resolve the storage account to this private DNS IP address. I'll try to repeat it. Cool. So remember, this is the link, right? So I'll try to repeat. I have a VM here. What's the best approach to do here? Okay, I'm a developer. If I try to resolve, and here my developer, let's say we're going to be using a typical DNS 1111, right? So if the developer in his machine over here, he's in a machine here, he or she is in a machine here, tries to resolve, what's going to happen is going to use its private DNS. Its DNS will know about the public IP address, this one, right? And this guy is going to try to come this way through public. It's blocked, so bad luck, you cannot go ahead. Cool. Everybody on the same page? So what is one typical Spoken Hub configuration? So what we will do is we're going to create another subnet in here, or a VNet separate and do some peering. I will talk more about that later. Let's say we're going to use this other subnet. Let's put it as green. This is going to be another subnet. Subnet is going to be the hub. And this is going to be 192.168.10/24, right? What happens with this subnet? This subnet is going to be using this same Azure DNS. What does it mean? That this Azure DNS is going to be using, this VNet is going to be able to use this private DNS zone to resolve. So if my friend, the developer, goes here, right? His machine goes here. First of all, this IP address is not there unless you force it. But once you deploy a VM inside Azure in a subnet, you will get the DNS from that subnet, the same way that you get the DHCP. And what's going to happen is now my friend, the developer, is going to try to go to Azure, to a storage account. It's going to resolve here. Resolve here is going to say, I know about this guy, and you are going to get the private IP address. What's the cool thing about the private IP address is that now my friend, the developer, is going to go directly to the private IP address. Cool? If you go directly to a private IP address, that means that you are going to hit this private endpoint. And as long as there is no NSG blocking the traffic going out and blocking the traffic going in from here, your developer can now access a storage account that has no public access. through the private endpoint. So what's going to happen? What happens a lot? Um, we're going to say my friend, the developer, has 200 tools already installed. It's a dev container. My developer have some set of data sets that are inside his machine. You shouldn't have data sets. There's a lot of reasons why the developer will like to be using your computer. I think one of the most the common reasons why a developer would like to use his computer is not only because of the tools, but that computer is already monitored by the organization. Typical scenario for a machine getting built here as a jump box, let's call it, for dev to do some dev is going to be a VM. Let's call it now this VM, right? Let's call this is going to be a VM. This is going to be a VM that will have something that we call forgot the name. Let me try to remember. 5 4. I forgot the name, but it's the RDP that you go Bastion enable. So this guy is going to have Bastion enable. Bastion at the end, all that is doing is creating a separate subnet in here with a public IP address that's going to be able to forward traffic to here on an HTTPS level. So what you're doing is basically RDPing, so remote desktop protocol, RDP, and what you're going to do it is through a website. That's one use case, but again, you went with another VM. You are working on Edge, right, or on the port on the Explorer, and that's how you will work, right? So this repository that I started was one of the main reasons is this VM that you see here. This VM, my organization, forces us to be domain joined. If you want to access resources in Azure, you have to be domain joined. If you domain join this machine, that means that this has to be in tune, right? In tune. And you don't want to tune a lot of machines. You don't want your account to have a lot of machines all around the world. It's not secure. The other thing is, in my case, it intunes the machines, it disables RDP by default, and then you have a VM in Azure that you cannot access because it doesn't have RDP enabled. So it was kind of fun. But now let's try to see what are we trying to do on this repo. So what we're going to do in this repository is this hub VNet that is here. Let's leave it here. Cool. And this hub VNet, no, let's remove this hub VNet. We're going to talk a little bit about the peering. So let me move this one here, right? So now we're going to talk about what the repository is doing, right? What we're deploying. So imagine you have all this scenario still here and you still want to have access, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to create another VNet here. Let's work this VNet here, or let's be yellow. Let's put it, this is going to be blue. I like blue. So what is this VNet? This is going to be our VPN. We're going to call it a VPN VNet, right? Why I want to call it VPN? I'm a happy person. Cool. In this VPN, we're going to have a subnet that is going to be my. Why don't you let me put it here? Okay. Let me have my subnet. This is going to have a no back. No, let's put another background. Cool. This one is going to have a subnet. That is for the VPN itself. We're going to do a point-to-site VPN. I will talk about that in a minute. So subnet VPN, and we're going to have a nice friend that is going to be called DNS, private DNS, private DNS resolver. This is a private DNS. This is another subnet. Let me put subnet. And it's for the private DNS resolver. Cool. How this works. We're going to create a VPN here. Let me put another box here. There's going to be a this is going to be a point-to-site VPN that is going to allow my friend the developer that was here. Let me just remove this. Cool. I move this a little bit more to the far to the right. Cool. We're going to have my friend the developer here. It's going to be here in his dev box, right? This is a big dev box. Cool. And this friend is going to be my point, and it's going to have a point to site VPN. So he's going to connect here. Beautiful. Now, what happened when you have this DNS, this development to point to site? So in here, the developer is going to start using the DNS. Let me remove this div from here. Let me put here. Here is going to be dev, right? Here is the develop, right? Once you have this connection, this is a point to site. Usually, in our case, we're doing OpenVPN and IKVPN. Well, once you have this connection here, this private, this VPN, what's going to happen is this developer, once connects, is going to use the DNS that comes from this profile. The DNS that comes from this profile is going to be this one. Let me put it right so it looks better. It's going to be the Azure DNS. I haven't changed it, that's the one. What happened once you are trying to connect from here? Let me give you another example, another scenario. So you understand why we need this private DNS. Cool, let me put this one up and let's try to do this instead of having here. Let's try to have the same, replicate this one here. Control C, Control C, Control V, right? What would be the problem if I say to this guy, connect directly from here to here, right? It will have this DNS zone, and as we were seeing with the VM that was here, the VM could go to this Azure DNS, and this was smart enough to forward the request to this private DNS zone, and the DNS zone came here. When you are using a VPN, it gets this IP address, but it does not forward the traffic to the private DNS. I repeat, it does not forward the traffic to the DNS. Everybody same page? I hope so. So when you cannot forward the traffic to the DNS, what's going to happen? You're going to be in a sad place in which you will have to change all your hosts file. So you will start doing something like say private.storage.com equal to 192.168.225. You're going to have to do that with your private resources. You can say, okay, it's not that difficult. So here's my second scenario. And let me show you this scenario. This is another repository that I'm working on, and it's going to be deploying Azure AI Studio. These are all the records that were all these private DNS zones are being created here. So you can imagine your host file start becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So instead of that, we don't want to go this way, we don't want to go this way, we want to go this way, but we're going to take advantage of this resource that is called a private DNS resolver. This private DNS resolver will have an IP address that is you send me traffic and I will forward it to the well-known resources. So basically it's acting like the VM that we had here that forwards traffic from here to here and was smart to come to the private DNS zone. Instead of that, we're going to use this NIC card. This NIC card is going to be 192, let's say 192, let's call this another range, right? So this is going to be 168, no, what the hell I'm talking, 192, sorry for that, I'm getting straight, 192, 168, no, let's call this, cool, so we're going to call this 128.0/24. This can be actually /28, but let's call it like this, right? I went to 128 because I'm going to divide this VNet in the /25, so don't worry about that. You will see the IP address in the other side. Cool, so let's say we have this one. Once you deploy the resource, what we have to configure for our beautiful scenario is we're going to use the IP address that you get from this subnet, so this private endpoint, sorry, this subnet this private DNS resolver is going to put an IP address that is going to be in this range. So let's call it .5. Cool. This is a resource. If you see here, visualize, let me see this one. This is the resource. This is the DNS resolver, right? You see here, we have I'll show you in Azure, but we have this up and running. It's an identity. Cool. So if we come back, what we're going to do now with this is we're going to change our DNS or the VNet. How convenient. Now our subnet, our VPN, our VNet, let me call this is the VNet, right? Our VNet has this DNS set up. So traffic that is going to be running in here is going to come from here to here. And this thing is smart enough to forward traffic to the well-known DNS in Azure, right? The other thing that this guy is capable is resolving private DNS zones, but we don't have any DNS zone here. So what we have to do now, the next step is going to be, okay, let me grab this, let me grab all this, cool. Let me make it smaller, then we move it here, and now we're going to talk about something that's peering. Remember I told you about peering? Now we're going to talk about peering. So we're going to do a peering here. That peering is going to allow traffic from my VNet network to go into my, I will call it spoke VNet. Make sense? I hope so. My spoke VNet that is here. And we're going to link. You see how we have this link between this private storage, this private DNS zone and this VNet. We're going to do the same for this VNet. So that looks like this. We're going to add another link. This is going to be link number 2. Let's put it here. This is link 1. This is going to be link 2. And this link, what it's doing is allowing my DNS forward request to this private DNS zone, enabling these resources or this resource over here resolve private IP addresses. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me jump and let's see a little bit the code. So what we have here, again, we have a VNet, we have a VNet gateway, that's our VNet resource, and we have the private DNS zone. How we deploy this? We're just doing deploy, and it goes and deploys this main.bicep, right? You can see, let me go back to a makefile. That's all that is doing. I'm going to enable private DNS zone. It's going to create the gateway. This is the location. It's an identifier that I use. This is the main parameters and the main.bicep, correct? Then I told you what happens with the DNS, right? I have to create these private links. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use this second resource, this second bicep that is here, and all that it does is create a private link between my VNet and a DNS zone that I tell him. Cool. So to give you an example on how this looks, I'll try to show you. This is the configuration that I will be using for my scenario. So here we are telling, hey, there is this link, there is this DNS zone, right? Sorry. Oops. 1. Cool. Click outside. We have only the DNS zone, right? We have only this one. I show you what we're doing with the AI Studio. So instead of having that AI Studio, instead of having this only one, we're going to have all these ones. Cool. So if you see, this DNS is going to be linking each one of these DNS zones that I have in my other VNet and add them into my new VNet. So I'm going to be linking these resources, let me go up outside. This thing goes here, these private DNS zones, with my VNet link. So let me show you a little bit. Let me go into Azure. Let me see if I have it here. Let me go into portal. 1 second, I'll share my screen. 1 minute. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, it's getting there, it's getting there. So for now, what I want to show you is first, I did deploy this resource. If you see, I did last night. So we have this deployment done yesterday, deployed these resources. So we have a private, AI studio, and it's going to be this one. There we go. It's going to be fast. You can do it. You can do it. Oh, sorry. Let me try here. Cool. So I have these resources, right? Let me come here. In here you have the VPN, and here you have the resources that I just showed you, the AI Studio. In the VPN, as I mentioned, we have the gateway, the VPN gateway. We have the VNet that we were considering. That's a VPN VNet that I was talking about. This public IP address is for the VPN gateway, so you can reach out to the VPN. And this is the private DNS, right? The private DNS, as you can see, has an inbound endpoint. So this is this IP address that is here, and it's going to be updating. We're going to update our VNet to this IP address, our VNet DNS to this IP address. So if you see our VNet at the moment has this DNS. Cool, it's using the default Azure provider. Cool. So to show you what I'm talking about, let me come here. And what we're going to do, no, sorry, let me come here. Let me go to the resource group. So let me go to the resource group, this one. So we have this cognitive service. This is my AI hub. If I try to go here, in this moment, launch Azure Seattle. If I tell him, come on, launch, it's going to try to go there, but it's private. It's going to tell me, hey, you cannot go there, right? That's expected. Beautiful. Now let's try to configure our VPN. So let's close this. So what we're going to do now, we're going to create the links before configuring the VPN, right? So you make links. Cool. Remember again, the links that we're going to create are going to be the ones in my config. Let me see, where's my config? My config is links config. Here they are, right? We're going to find each one of these links, and we are going to, we're going to find each one of these private DNS zones, and we're going to link them with my VNet, Make sense? With my VPN VNet. So here you could see, let me go here. Let's try to see different DNS zones. Cool. Let's see how is this going. Running, beautiful. Should be happening. Let's see private DNS. Let's see the first one. What was the first one? Here we can see virtual network links. And now we can see it is the linked to the previous one, to my AI Studio. And now we're having a second one to my VPN, right? So we are doing basically this link between my friend the VNet and my private DNS. Now what we're going to do, let me close all this. Cool, I close this. Now what we're going to do, don't tell me that I close this one. Now that we have the peering, what we are going to do, now that we have this peering, right, what we're going to do is, now that we have the private links, what we're working on is the peering. The peering is done through this script that we have here that is called configure vnet.sh. Configure vnet.sh, all that is going to do is read the output of the deployment of the VPN. We need the resource group, right? The resource group, the VNet ID, etc., etc. Then we are going to source the .env. The .env is going to give my script the details about the VNet that we want to peer with. So if you see them, it looks like this. Cool. And then what else we have? Let me go back to the script. configure VPN, the first thing that it's going to do is get the DNS, and the first thing is going to set up the DNS server, right? So if I go to my VPN, let me go first here, let me go to my resource group in the VPN. You will see that my VNet now has this DNS. That is basically my inbound private DNS resolver. A note, private inbound DNS resolver also has an outbound resolver. What that means is that you can have one deployed on premises and tell him, hey, forward traffic from this guy here, and you will be able to resolve traffic from premises and traffic from cloud directly using one of these resources. Right, so now that we have set up the VPN, the next step that it does is going to set up the peering. So we're going to do the peering first from the VPN to the hub, and then from the hub VNet to the VPN. Right, so the peering is there. You have to do it from the both sides so it connects. And now let's go and see the peering in my VPN, in my VNet, sorry. So in my VNet, you can see now we have, let me see, this peering, and it should say fully synchronized, connected, and it's going to my VNet, that is the AI Studio, right? So beautiful. Now where we are, where's my drawing? Where we are, we have everything set up to forward traffic from this. Let me just close this. Let me go out a little bit. No, let me go in. Let me use one. Let me take, oops, one. Let me bring this up here, and I'll tell you what I'm trying to do. Yeah, grab everything. Cool. Let me go a little bit. So now that we have set up all the network, all the links, everything, what we're going to focus is how to configure this VPN, and then how to bring it to your VM, right, to your computer. So I have been doing it multiple times. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to jump into my VPN. Here's my VPN. We're going to do it on Windows. There are multiple videos out there for doing this configuration. Point to site. We're going to create a new one. We're going to say 172.16. Let's say 99.0/24. So that's going to be my VPN. That's on my machine. So this machine is going to get one of those IPs once it gets it resolved. Not once it gets the connected. And then let's go back to here, and I usually go with OpenVPN, but we're going to use these two. The reason we're going to use these two is because we want to use the Azure client. So we're going to use these two, not only OpenVPN, but also the Azure client. That one, we're going to say authentication, Azure certificate. Now it comes, what is going to be the root certificate. Really quick, the VPN has a set of CAs that you tell him, hey, this CA, I know it. Any user that comes with a certificate that was signed by this CA is good to go. So there are multiple ways to do it in Mac, in Linux, in Windows, but probably the easiest way that I do it at the moment is I will go here. I will just copy this script that I have here. I'm not running it from my dev container. I'm going to run it, let's call it V8. Just to be sure I'm in the right place. Let's copy this. So now I have this script. If you see, all that is going to do is create a root certificate and then create a client certificate with that is signed by that root, right? So now I'm going to go to PowerShell. Let me come to PowerShell. It's not the first one. Let me see, where's PowerShell? You see PowerShell? Yeah, PowerShell, cool. And what we're going to do is I'm going to paste anyway. And beautiful, I have a certificate. Here is the thumbprint, right? And now I can go to the cert minus user certificates. It's going to be under my user. In personal certificates, I will see V8, right? I need my CA, right? So which one is the CA? This is V8 and this is V8. This is my client, and it got signed by the client certificate. Okay, it's signed by V8. So my root CA will be this one. If I come here, Beautiful. This is my root CA. It's self-signed. Be careful. It's not public certificate. Now we're going to say export. I just want, no, I don't want a private key. I want a base64. I don't want a binary. Let's browse. Let's go to desktop VPNs and let's try to do V8. V8. Beautiful. Save. Next. Next. Done. Now you saw where I put it. Let's go really fast. Desktop VPN. Where's number 8 here? Root certificate. Let's open it. Open with Notepad. Notepad. Don't judge. Now we're going. Is this V8? I don't know if this is V8. I have a lot of things open. How I know the name of this file? Let's see. Come on, show me a name. B7. Told you it was not this one. Let's go here. It's how I opened. Hey, now is this V8? Yes, it is V8. Take the content in the middle. You can do a basic. You can do a base64. You can change it. You can break the endpoint, the line. You can concatenate. You can do a lot of things, but you can just simply copy that thing and come here. This is going to be my certificate. One root. Save. You can add more root certificates. I did another video of some challenge that we have seen with the when you download the VPN client, mostly for Azure. It doesn't add the CAs at the end, so you have to do it manually. There's another video. So for now, let's go back. We are where are we? Where are we? We created that certificate for my VPN. So we're here. We're configuring the VPN. Then all that we're going to do is going to jump into this machine, and we're going to use the Azure VPN. Azure VPN client. Beautiful. And you can see I have different ones, but we're going to add this new one. Now you can see it finished them saving the configuration. Now we're going to download the VPN client. It will take a little bit of time to download. Basically, it's building the binaries, it's connecting, it's putting everything together in a zip file, but eventually it will appear here like a download. You can do it. You can do it. Did I click? Yeah, I click. Let me do control. Here it is. Beautiful. So open file. I'm going to go to this Azure VPN. We're going to bring it to VPN here. I hope it's this one. Cool. So if I go to VPN, now we have this. Sorry. Now that we have this VPN, it will be this one, right? This is the one that I just downloaded. Epa. Cool, let's do this. So now we go here, we're happy, we're going to tell him please import something, a nice person, we're going to go to V8, we're going to import it. Let me, before I connect to the VPN, did I import it? Yeah, cool. So now it's going to ask me which kind of authentication I'm going to use, certificate, and then which certificate I'm going to use. I have to use my client certificate. It is showing this too because it's saying which certificate was signed by DCA. Obviously the CA, and this is my client certificate. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to have my VPN here. And before connecting, I want to show you that we cannot go there. So we'll do the dance as soon as this works. So I'm going to go to my AI studio. It's a private AI studio. If you see the network, it says don't go here, you're not allowed to come here. Beautiful, let's go launch the AI studio, and it's going to give me a finger. Boom, you cannot do it, we haven't connect, right? Let me try to find another resource that we have a private endpoint. Let me see this one. No, let's do this one. Storage account. Let's go to storage account. Storage account, cool. This storage account, where is my let's say it has a name, endpoints I think is the name. Endpoints. Oh, good guess. Let's go to a blob. Cool, let's copy this. Let's go to this one, Control L, and let's look this guy. Cool. Epa. Cool. So you can see it's giving me the public IP address of the. Let me make this bigger. It's giving me the public IP address and it's giving me the two aliases. Here is the private link. So here is saying you can use this alias to resolve this private endpoint. Obviously, it doesn't know how. It doesn't have that IP address. It doesn't have that access to that DNS. That is this private DNS thing. Let me see. There's a command. ns lookup in PowerShell. There's another command that is interesting that I think we should be using that. Resolve DNS. Oops, let's copy it. Resolve DNS. Pam. Cool. Now let's do the same. Resolve. I'm not a PowerShell person, not yet, but cool, beautiful. It is going to tell me the IP addressing, the CNAMEs, the IP address that I get, and the start. Cool. Now let's connect to the VPN. Where is my friend the VPN? So we can prove if this works. Let's try to connect to the VPN. Hopefully this works. No pressure. I have caught this video like 10 times. Cool, here is the connection. Beautiful. Let's try to do this. Let's see if this works. Ta-da! We have a private IP address. How beautiful is that? Who resolved this? Who was smart enough to resolve this? Private IP address. You can see that it's using the private link, right? I use the same endpoint. What happened here? What is the DNS from this VPN? Dun, dun, dun. The one that we use, right? So now let's go to the real thing. Let's see if we can go to my friend AI Studio. Hopefully this works. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Don't give me a finger. Ah, beautiful. So that's all. That's what I wanted to show you, how it was working. I didn't create any project. If you want more details about the AI Studio video or the AI Studio repository, I can do another video. But that's it. I hope this was useful at all. You can see how you can use this pattern to connect to private endpoints, not only to your storage account, but you can do multiple things, databases, ACRs, like anything that you have private endpointed, you can go through here. At the end, all you need is forward.dns. I didn't have to change the host file. I didn't have to do any witchcraft. It just works. So all good, my friends. Take it easy, and hopefully it was useful.